All right, so we have seen a lot of things in ABAP programming, right? Classical reports we were discussing in the classical report. We have saw lots of things, right? For all entries, joins, message classes, everything, a lot of things. Now we start with classical report events. Think on it. What is the use of an event? What is a event?
Anytime he runs a transaction or clicks on a button or enters something and presses to run it.
Yes, yes, that's the simplest answer. So if you see your SAP system, if you see your SAP system, here you can see lots of buttons are there, right? Lots of buttons in toolbar is there.
Mhm.
Go for any transaction code, and if you are clicking on any button, what do you think? What is actually happening here? In the backend, a code has been written for it. A code has been written for it. That logic is getting triggered, right?
Mhm.
That logic is getting triggered. So events are always triggered. Events are always triggered. Events are always triggered by a specific action or a specific occurrence. Either it can be specific occurrence or specific action. Specific occurrence simply means, let's say, just let this screen stay for 5 to 10 minutes. It will be automatically logged out, right? How it is
Mhm.
happening? If you are leaving this screen idle for 10 to 15 minutes, it will be automatically logged out. How it is actually happening in the backend? So that, see, whenever you are logging into the system, a temporary memory is allocated for you. So if you are not performing anything, then by default you are increasing the load on application layer, which is no meaning of it. There is no meaning for it. And also you are paying SAP for that. So instead, what this application system does, it gets logged out so that it will decrease the load on the application layer also. It will decrease the load on the application layer also. So it can be a specific occurrence or by a specific action. Specific action. So a specific action here simply means, let's say, clicking on a button, on a button, or scrolling mouse. It can be anything. Event always triggered. Scrolling mouse. Or specific occurrence can be, let's say, when a particular time has been reached. When a particular time has been reached. So two things, anything can happen, right? And
Mhm.
because of that, a event will be triggered. Now we have lots of classical report events. Lots of various classical report events. For our reports, we have got like 9 classical report events. We will see them one by one. Initialization, add selection screen, start of selection, end of selection, top of page, end of page, add selection screen output, then add selection screen on value request, value request for field. Then we have add selection screen on help request also. On help request for field. Value request, help request also. Perfect. 9 events. What is the use cases of these events? One by one. Initialization. Initialization event. Initialization event is triggered before displaying the screen, displaying the selection screen or input screen. Okay. Just before you are about to display your selection screen, this event will be triggered. This event will be triggered. What is the job of this event? The purpose of this event is to assign the default values to parameters and the select options. To parameters and the select options. The job of this event is to assign the default values to parameters and select option. Any doubt here?
No, that's fine.
Default values. So for that, let's create a program so that it will be easier for us. I'll go to /NSE38. I will create a program Z classical report events. Okay. All right. Create button. Classical report events. The type, go for executable, press enter. This was my earlier package, right? This is our package which we are using, and we have our transport request Mukul. Yeah, this one. Okay, Mukul and Ellen. So we will select them, press enter. Perfect. This is my program. Now let's create a parameter. So I will create a parameters here. Parameters p employee id. Type my data element, which is ZAR employee id. I will create this parameter here. Then we have some default data elements which we can also use. If you go to some tables, every table has some default data elements and fields which are for our use case. So if I go to VBAK, I can see we have ERDAT data element created on. I have ERZDT data element created on or entry time. Then we have ERNAM, which is the user who have created that particular document. This field stores that data, so we can also create for them parameters. They will make look beautiful. So per num type its data element or its data element num, just copy it, paste it here. Then we have date, so date type its data element date, and then we have p time type ERZDT, right? Parameters. Then let's say if I have to create a select option, I need a variable. So LB employee ID type its data element, select options as employee ID for LV employee ID, S employee ID for LV employee ID. I'll check for syntaxes, activate it. And now if you go to text elements, If you go to text element here, selection text, you can write some values here, right? So let me write here employee ID. I'll write here creation date for our date, for our name user, or created, let's say username. Yeah, username is more fine here. Then time and range for employee ID. They are perfect values for these parameters and select option. So go back, go for execute. They will come like this way. Now I have to see the importance of this particular initialization event. I have to see the importance of this particular initialization event. Okay. How will I do that? So
To put the initialization keyword somewhere, right?
yes, we will use initialization. And now just think about it, what is going to happen. If you put here debugger, sorry, breakpoint, if you put here a breakpoint, you will realize what is actually going to happen here. So activate your program and kindly go for execute button. Can you see, before displaying the selection screen, I am inside the breakpoint, right? I am inside the debugger. I am inside the debugger, right? So
Yes.
I can use this initialization event to fill the data here. I can use this initialization event to fill the data. So I will slowly store data here. P employee ID is equal to, let's say, 101, and for P name I will store value as, let's say, Sai name. Sorry, SY created by Sai U name. We have a system variable Sai U name which we can use. Then for P dat we can use Sai datum. These are the system variable. For time we also have Sai UZDIT. We can use this one also. And then we have select option. Now this is my question to you, Ellen. How will I store data in my select option? How? Oh, sorry, sy hyphen data. If I have to manually pass some data, just go for execute button. See the beauty of it. All of them are field, right? Username, Sai, you name. My current user is coming here. Creation date, the date of your SAP system. What is the date of your SAP system? Go for system status. Just see its date. Its date. And
22nd.
the current time it is getting displayed. But I have to store data into this range. How will I show here?
By making an
So,
intern. Oh,
yeah, sorry, I just want to say I'm just
intern.
trying to, sorry,
Mukul is also here. Hi, Mukul.
hey, hi.
Hello,
No, I
Mukul.
just wanted to say I joined, so I just wanted to say I joined the session. Yeah, sorry, I didn't finish that.
Mukul, your voice is lagging a lot.
Um, is it better now?
Yeah. But I believe there is some issue with your microphone. Try to reinstall it. Okay.
Okay.
So guys, we have employee ID, username. I have used some default data elements. Mukul, we were just discussing some classical report events. Events always gets triggered when you press on any buttons. In the backend, a logic has been written. So we saw some events here. Lots of events are there. Initialization, add selection screen, start of selection, end of selection, top of page, end of page, add selection screen output, add selection screen on value request, and add selection screen on help request. These are some of the classical report events, out of which the first one is initialization event. Okay, first one is initialization event, and it gets triggered just before displaying your input screen or selection screen. Its purpose is to assign the default values to the parameters and select options. So we are assigning some default values to our parameters. Now I had a question, I have to pass some default value inside my select option. How will I do that?
Yeah, for this one, maybe you can mention SM ID low and high is equal to.
Low and high in the select option. Okay. How many components are there? 4 components, right? We had 4 components in our select option. Sign, right? So sign, I will pass input because I'm passing an input here. I include. Then I will pass another one, option. So for range, we need to pass between. So BT. And then S employee ID, it's low value. Let's pass some low value here, 102, let's say. And then I will pass high value here. I is equal to, let's say 106. So it will come. Now it will come there. What do you think? Will it come there?
Good.
That should be it, yeah.
Let's check. Is it coming?
No.
No, it's not coming. How will I check? I will go to debugger, right? I will go to breakpoint and I will check why it is not coming. Now if you go for execute button, this event will trigger and we are inside debugger mode. Just check for S employee ID. For our employee ID, we can see we have a structure, we have a work area, and we have an internal table. Now if you go there, we have data in our work area, right? We have data in our work area, the same data that we have passed. But is there any data in my internal table?
No.
No, there is no data here in my internal table. No data here. Why? Because if you remember, I have already explained that your internal table follows the principle of your select option is an internal table of header line. The same name works here as work area also, and the same name works here as an internal table also. Only the difference is you will be using square brackets. So unless and until we are storing data in this internal table, it will not reflect on the selection screen. So we are required to append the value of our work area into internal table. So append as employee ID. Since both of them are same, you can directly use this thing. There is a lot of confusion while using the internal table with header line. That is why I never use them for storing the data. That is why we never use them. Now if you go and check, oh sorry, first activate it and go and check it. Just see it, right? We are getting our data. This is the initialization event used for giving here a default values on the selection screen. Okay. Then second event, add selection screen. Add selection screen. So add selection screen event is triggered when a user performs some actions on the selection screen. It is triggered when a user performs some action on the selection screen. Perfect. A selection event is triggered when a user performs some action on the selection screen. What is the meaning of some action here? That is, example, enter, any click, etc. It can be anything. Any mouse click, enter, anything. It can be anything here. And what is the purpose of this event? The purpose of this event is to validate the input on the selection screen. The purpose of this event is to validate the input on the selection screen. Now just go and check. Let's use this. Add selection screen. Just see what is going to happen. I will put here a breakpoint. I will put here a breakpoint. I will activate it and I will execute it. Just see, I am pressing enter. Can you see this event got triggered? Any action you are going to perform on the selection screen, this event will always trigger. Whenever you are going to perform any action on the selection screen, this event will always trigger. Is this thing clear or not?
Yes.
Any event, but just press this one also. See, we are here. Press this one. Do anything. Perform any action and this event will trigger. What is the purpose of this event? To validate the input on the selection screen. So let's do the validation part. I'll remove this breakpoint. What is the meaning of validating? We will write a query, right? We will write a query and check if the input is correct or not. So let me just write a query. Let's create a structure first for that. So I'll create a structure. Employee ID, its type, employee name, type, department, its type, manager and its type, and end of the employee. Then we will have internal table and work area also. So LT employee type table of UI underscore employee, LS employee type TY underscore employee. Perfect. LT employee, LS employee. Okay. Now in add selection screen, what I will do, I will write a query or I can check anything. You can do the validation here. So I will check for the validation. Select employee ID, employee name, department here, manager here from your table name. So ZAR employee tab into table LT employee, into table LT employee, where employee ID in as employee ID. Okay. And I will apply here if LT employee is initial, that is it is empty, I can give here a wrong message, right? So message employee ID do not, employee ID or data for the corresponding employee ID do not exist. Data for the given EMP ID do not exist in table. Type error. Okay, let's check how we are going to perform the validation. Here we are getting some default enter. So we can do one more thing here. We can go for else condition also. Here we can write else condition also. Message data exist. Type S for success. Perfect. Let's go for syntax check. Activate, execute and press enter. Can you see data exist for this range, right? Now let me just change the range. I am changing it to let's say 1110 to 1112 to 115 and I'll press enter. What it is saying now? Data for the given employee ID do not exist in table, right? We can do the validation. We can do the validation. Okay? Any doubt
Yes.
here? No?
No.
Then we have start of selection event. So we have start of selection event. What is the use of start of selection? So start of selection event triggers when user clicks on execute button on the selection screen. When user clicks on execute button on the selection screen. Which button is execute button? F8, right? F8 is my execute button. So when my user is going to press F8 on the selection screen, this event will be triggered. Okay, this event will be triggered. So there will be a purpose. So the purpose of this selection start of selection is the purpose of start of selection is to write all the selection logic here. All the logic is written always in start of selection. Selection logic is always part of this particular event. Selection logic is always part of this event. You can write your logic here. Go for start of selection. Start of selection. This event are in ordered. First thing, even if you are writing initialization just below, it will be triggered at its time only. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you write it here or somewhere else. It will be triggered on its preferred time only. The time it is fixed just before displaying the selection screen. This will be triggered when you will press any button on the selection screen. This will be triggered when you are going to click on execute button on the selection screen. Just put a breakpoint and see the magic. Breakpoint. Execute and click on execute button. Can you see? Breakpoint. Hit. So selection logic is always part of this event. Always use start of selection to write any logic. So I will write here my main logic. I already have written, so let's just bring from here. If LT employee is not initial, then I will display its data. If it is not empty, then I will display the data. So and if I will go for loop add LT employee into LS employee and loop, and we will write the data also. Employee ID, employee name, department, and at last manager. Okay, we'll check for syntax. Activate, execute. Yeah, it is working. We are getting our data exist message also, right? Very important. Now the next kind of event we have is end of selection. Fourth one, end of selection. What do you think? What will be the use of this event?
Can you hit the back button once you have executed the transaction?
We are not required to perform any action there. So when our selection process actually ends, SAP automatically calls this event end of selection. When the selection process always ends, SAP automatically calls this event. What is the purpose of this event? This event helps us to identify the end of data or records. This event helps us to identify the end of data or records. That is, you can use this. So you can write a message here, or you can write a text here that your end of selection event has triggered, right? You can write. So just see here, after start of selection, you can use your end of selection event, end of selection. I'm writing a text here, end of selection is triggered. Activate it. Now if just go for execute and see where it is getting. Yes, at last we are getting the data. Even if you will write it on the top, even if you are going to write it just before the start of selection, still it will trigger after the start of selection, because this is the process. This is the process here. Can you see? It doesn't matter whether you are writing it, but this is the process here. Start of selection, then we have end of selection. We can use it for showing certain logic. Perfect. Then we have top of page. So let's go for top of page. Very simple event. So top of page event, or top of page event is triggered when the first write statement occurs in the program. When the very first write statement occurs in the program, at the same time this particular event is triggered. Top of page event is triggered when the first write statement occurs in the program. What was the definition of event? It can be a specific occurrence also. So when this happens, when the first write statement occurs, this top of page event is always triggered. Now what can be the purpose of it? The purpose of this event is to give a title or header at the beginning of a new page. At the beginning of a new page. The purpose of this event is to give a title or header at the beginning of a new page. So if you will go to top of page, you can see it. Let's say top of page. I'm writing the top of page. First write statement. This will become the first write statement. Execute, and it will be appearing at the top. It will be appearing at the top. Okay. It will be appearing at the top. Then we have end of page. At last we have end of page event. So end of page event calls when the last write statement occurs in a program for a page. So end of page event is called when the last write statement occurs in a program for a page. When the last write statement occurs in a program for a page, At that particular time, what you are going to see, this event will be triggered. The purpose of this event is to give a footer at the end of a new page, at the end of a new page. But there is a mandatory step for end of page event, because your SAP do not know how long your page can be. Top of page is fine, it is fine, but for your end of page, your SAP do not know how long your page can be. So what you are required to do, for end of page, we are required to provide the line count. We are required to provide the line count for our end of page event. So what we will do in our report, I will go back. This is my report, right? This is my report name. Here we are required to give here the line count of your output. So line count, if your output will have, let's say, 11 lines, then you can reserve some line for the footer also, or end of page also. So I am, let's say, reserving last 2 lines for my end of page event, so that I can see its value. Let me check if it is coming or not. I will give here end of page, end of page, and I will write a text here. So write end of page, end of page. Syntax check, activate, execute, go and check. Can you see end of page is there, right? End of page is there. But if you increase its length, let's say decreasing its value to 10, now let's check what is going to happen. Execute, see here, it gets shifted to second page. Can you see? For the first page, the value you have reserved 10 lines, last 2 lines were for end of page, but remaining value got shifted to the next page, right? Page number 2. This is your end of page event. Any doubt here?
No,
No.
for now.
These are just for knowledge purpose, okay? Everything is just for knowledge purpose. I'm not going to say that you are going to use it mandatorily, but if it is there in SAP, we must know it, right? So after that, we have got add selection screen output. It is the most important one, so we will see it at last. But then we go for this one, add selection screen for field or value request. What is its purpose is, so it is used for to give a F4 help to any field, and the purpose of this is, it is used to give a F1 help for any field in a web program, any field in a web program. Clear? It is used to give a F1 help for any field in a web program. Now, if you will go for execute button here, you can see here there is no F1 but for creation date we are getting a F4 help. Why? Because by its date, by default it is sending us date value. So let's create a F1 value or F4 value for our employee ID. Let's create it. So I will go for add selection screen on value request for my P employee ID. Just put here a breakpoint, syntax check and activate. I will go for execute button. I will press here, F4 help is coming, right? Press on F4 button. This debugger will hit. Here we are required to write the logic for F4 help, and accordingly you will get the data. So that's the separate portion of our module pool programming chapter, where we will see how to write the logic, how to create the F4 help for a field. We are just now seeing the events, that are for our use here. So add selection screen on help request for P employee ID. Now let's put here breakpoint. I will go for activate and execute. Now here what I will do, I will press here F1 help. So I will click on F1 button. See here, this event is getting triggered, right? Using this event, we can create our F1 help. So again, we have a separate topic for that in module pool programming. These two things are there. We will see them there, how we can create F4 help and F1 help. For now, this is only for knowledge purpose. These two events are responsible for creating F4 help and F1 help. Okay, clear?
Yes.
Now let's check the most important one, add selection screen output. Very, very important. The purpose of this event is to modify the selection screen. Modify the selection screen. Modify the selection screen. So for that, let's take a requirement. We can display our selection screen. We can simply disappear some buttons from there. We can make a field readable or in change mode on the selection screen because of this event. To modify the selection screen, we can modify our selection screen dynamically using this add selection screen output event. Add selection screen output event. Very, very important. We can directly modify everything on our selection screen because of this one. So to understand it, let's take a requirement. Let's take a requirement which will be more clear. Then I will create two radio buttons. Create two radio buttons. Let's say employee data and project data. Project data. When first radio button is checked or ticked, then select option or let's say parameter will be disappeared. Okay, parameter for employee ID will be disappeared. Disappeared, and we will display employee data based on the select option. Then or if second radio button is ticked, then what we will do, we will or my parameter, sorry, select option will be disappeared. For employee ID will be disappeared. And we will display project details data based on the parameter. Is this requirement clear? Two requirements we have. I want to simply disappear two input fields based on the radio button checked, and accordingly we will display our data. Okay, let's see it, how we are going to do that. So after end of page, we have add selection screen output. So add selection screen output. Now let's first create two radio buttons here. So I'll come and I'll create two radio button after the select option. Parameters. PR1 type C, radio button group R1. My group will be R1. Then I'll go for PR2 type C, radio button group R2. Okay, radio button group R2. Two things are here. We are going to simply use them according to our requirement. PR1 and PR2 is here. Now we are going to use them. First, let's go to text elements. Yes, first save them also. Selection text, and okay, it is not appearing here. We need to activate our code. Oh, there is an error. Group will be R1. Okay. Activate. So go to text element, and in the selection text, what I will do, I will write the value employee data. Okay. Employee data. Project data. Activate it. Go back and execute. Two radio buttons are there. What is my requirement? When I'm selecting this first radio button, this parameter should be disappeared, and we will display our employee data based on this select option. Or if I am selecting project data, then this select option should be disappeared, and we will display my project details data from my based on this parameter. Is this thing clear?
Yes.
Now just see how we are going to implement that. Very important event. So in add selection screen output, we can write logic for it. Add selection screen output. We are going to write logic for it. What we will do, we will check if PR1 equals to true. If PR1 equals to true, or else if, and if, and if. In the else if, we will write PR2 equals to true. Then we will disappear our fields using this event add selection screen output. So if you go to your SE11 and check the data type, we have a screen. We have a screen here. If you go and check, you will find we have a screen here, a structure screen. In this structure, we have a group of character 3. Can you see we have a group of character 3? Can you see it? Character 3.
Yes.
So what you can do, whatever fields you want to modify on the selection screen, you can give here a modification ID. So first I want to modify my parameter employee ID. So I will give here a modification ID. That modification ID should always be 3 character long. So I am giving here EID for employee, or let's say parameter. So let's name it PID. And for our select option, I will also give a modify ID as ID. Okay, anything you can give here a 3 character long. It's totally up to you, because it's group we are going to compare here. Now go to your add selection screen output. Here we are going to loop our screen. So loop at screen, we will loop at our screen and loop, and we will check for the group. So if screen group 1 is equal to true, if its value is true, what we will do, we will disappear its value, right? First thing, if PR1 is equal to true, right? Oh sorry, if PR1 is equal to 2, we are required to disappear our parameter, right? We are required to disappear our parameter so that we can display data based on select option. So I will check here group 1 value. If group 1 value is equal to SID, I will simply screen active equal to 0. I'll make its active equal to 0. It will become disappear. Screen active is equal to 0, and right here modify screen so that the changes can be saved. Same thing you can do, same thing you can do for the second case also. If screen group is equal to EID, or sorry, PID, then we will directly remove the parameter. Now just see what is going to happen. Syntax check, activate, and execute. Select this one. So nothing is happening. There is some problem. Oh, now, yes, now it is getting. Can you see? I am selecting employee data. I am selecting employee data and I'm pressing enter. Then my select option is disappeared, right? Then my select option is disappeared. I am selecting project data. My select option is appeared, but my parameter is disappeared now because I have given there screen active equal to 0. If you want to change it to read mode, you don't want to disappear it, you can write here screen input equal to 0. We have an input field also there. Input field is also there. Same thing you can do for this one also. Screen input equal to 0. So screen hyphen input equals to 0. Check for syntax. Go and activate. Execute it. Select anyone, press enter. Can you see this one I changed to read mode now? Select this one and press enter. See. These are dynamic changes, and add selection screen is used to modify your selection data. Modify your selection screen. Now once we have modified, we are required to display. So all our selection logic is always part of start of selection. We already know that. So here we will just give a if condition ki if PR1 equals to true, PR1 is equal to true, then based on select option we will display our employee data. Otherwise, if else if PR2 equal to true, then we will bring project details data, right? We will bring project details data, and if here I will write logic for my project details, I will bring it. So for that I need its structure also. So let's define its structure. Types begin of TY project employee ID, type its data element, then project ID, type its data element, project name and its data element, and of TY. I will, let's say, add some internal table here. So LT project type table of TY project and LS project type TY underscore project. Let's check for syntax. No error. Activate it. Then I will go for my else condition. I will write my logic here. So select employee ID, project ID, project ID, project name from your table, ZAR project details into table LT underscore project where employee ID is equal to P employee ID. This was my requirement, right? To display the project details data based on the parameter. This was my requirement to display the project details data based on the parameter. So I will check for if not initial condition and I will display my data. So if LT project is not initial, then I will display its value, and if loop at LT project into LS project, and I will display its value. So and loop. Based on that, then I will go for write statement. So write LS project hyphen employee ID, LS project hyphen project ID, and LS project hyphen project name. Perfect. Let's check for syntax. Activate it, execute it, and now see the magic. I will go for employee data. This has changed to read mode, and I will click on execute. It is displaying the employee data based on the select option. I will go for back. I will select project data. I will press enter. Now you can see this has changed to read mode. I will go for execute, and can you see we are displaying the data of my project, right? We are displaying data of my project.
Mhm.
9 events, guys. Very, very important. Very, very crucial. Highly used.
There's one question.
Yes.
Here after you select the radio button, you have to press enter. Is it also possible, that these options are toggled without pressing enter?
Yes, it is possible without pressing enter. We will have to pass a condition for that. That's some separate thing. Okay, it is possible. We will have to pass a condition for that. Then it will start working. But for now, just you are seeing it for the first time. So it's only this much. Okay.